Shabbat Shalom. Okay, so for those of you who were here last week, you might remember that I spoke about Abraham and the way that he went with the flow, the way that he was able to go with the kind of ups and downs, and for the most part, really go with it. And when he needed a little bit of help, being open to the help and being open to learning. Lech lecha, said God, and he went. There's a famine in the land. Okay, so he goes to Egypt for a little bit. So I'm going to contrast Abraham with someone from this week's Parsha. Different story, different situation, and that is his nephew Lot. Lot has settled himself in Sodom. Already not a good start. Not the best choice of a place, as we find out. And we meet him this week as the angels are the people angels. We're not sure what they are. The people, they're angels, they're people. They're going from Abraham down to Sodom to check in with Lot and the situation in Sodom. And there's a very curious thing that happens, which is they're hanging out there with Abraham in the middle of the day. They're looking down on Sodom. It can't be that far away. But they don't actually get to Sodom until nighttime. It says it's evening. So the question is, what took them so long? They're angels. They only have one thing to do. Like, that's their whole thing, is that they have one thing to do. And yet, it was taking them a really long time, it seems, to do it. There's a midrash from Bereshit Rabbah that addresses exactly this question. And it says, it brings a pasuk from Ezekiel that says, V'chayot ratzo v'shov, k'mar'eh habazak. This is a pasuk that is brought to talk about angels, explain the way that angels work. V'chayot is a type of angel. Ratzo v'shov, they ebb and flow. They run and return. They go to and fro. And the Midrash points out that it might have said v'chayot ratzot. Like, that might have been the way that they would conjugate it. But instead it says ratzo. And the Midrash says that's in order to point our attention to ratzo means like run. Lirtzot, to run, and return is often how it's translated, but to bring our attention to it being like lirtzot, to want. That the angels have a will, they have a desire, they have a will to go kind of perform their mission. But these angels, said the Midrash, were angels of rachamim. So these angels were actually really hoping that they wouldn't have to destroy Sodom. So they were dragging their foot, so to speak, in order to see if Abraham was going to successfully convince Abraham not to destroy the place. When I see this word ratzo v'shov, this term ratzo v'shov, a lot starts sparking in my mind, because the term ratzo v'shov is used very frequently in the Hasidic literature to describe the spiritual roadmap, to describe how spiritual growth happens. So in our kind of current capitalistic society, we tend to think of growth as linear and progressive. Like, you just do things and you get closer and closer to your goal. You meditate, you pray a lot, you get enlightened. Right? That's like kind of what we hope happens. But what we probably actually know from our own lives, and what we learn from this term ratzo v'shov, is that the whole process is much more iterative. That there's ups and downs. There's running and returning. There's ebbing and flowing to the process of spiritual growth. So in the Hasidic imagination, the place that we're going towards, our kind of goal, is a place of full knowing of the oneness of God in and through everything. Not a belief, but like a full experiential knowing. That's what they're going for. And sometimes you're closer to that and sometimes you're farther away. Sometimes there's places of more connection. You might just think about your own, however spirituality shows up for you, moments that you feel kind of closer and moments you feel far away. Maybe times in davening and tefillah that you feel there's more focus, there's more kavanah and intention, there's just more kind of ratzon, there's more kind of will, and times when you're more distracted, and times when you feel like, what am I really doing here? Times maybe when you feel more connected to nature, when you look out at the leaves and think, whoa. Or sometimes when you just don't even notice that there's beauty all around us. So Abraham, as we remember from last time, kind of was rolling with it. He was allowing these ebbs and flows to happen. Lot starts in Sodom, not the highest place, actually the lowest place. Sodom is literally in a valley. and we find him in this rough place. And the angels come down to his house. He does a similar thing to what Abraham did, which was welcome them in, make them food. But what does Lot make them? Matzah. Literally, he makes them matzot. So I look to Rashi to see what is going on here, and Rashi says, Pesach haya. It was Passover. Okay, so one thing you should know is that Rashi doesn't care about chronology at all. He's not interested. So if you're concerned about that, you could just let that go. But even beside that, even without kind of figuring out exactly what was going on, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, points us to one thing we can learn from this interpretation is just the connection between the Pesach story and the stone story, which, once you start to look at it, is quite remarkable. There's a lot of similarities between the story of the Israelites in Egypt and then leaving Egypt, and the story of Lot in Sodom and then leaving Sodom. Number one, the word Mitzrayim, a narrow place. It's this low place. In the Hasidic imagination of Ratzov V'Shov, Mitzrayim actually represents the lowest place. It's the lowest place you can be, this kind of narrow, low place. Sodom, bad enough it's about to be destroyed, literally in a valley. The Israelites go not just to live there for a little bit, but they really settle there. So if you remember, when Abraham goes down to Egypt, he goes just because there's a famine he has to go. It says he went lagur sham. He went to sojourn there. It was temporary. But by the time the generation after Yosef is around, the word that it uses is vayashev. They go to settle. They're there to settle. And similarly with Lot, the word is yashav. Lot, when he separates from Abraham, he goes down into this area and he sets up his tent, but yashav, outside of Sodom. And then by the time we get to our story, there's a door, if you recall. The door plays a big part of the story of Lot. So he's settled. He has a place. 2 of his daughters have married locals. He wants to belong there. And yet at the same time, he separates himself and he puts himself apart. So when it says all of the people, all of the men of Sodom, young to old, are outside of the door, of Lot's door, Lot is inside his door. Right? Lot is not a person of Sodom. And similarly with the Israelites, when we get to this new Pharaoh who rises up over the land, he notices these people who were not like the other people. Right? They didn't assimilate. They were there such that he's worried that they're going to go join the enemy instead in a case of war. So we have this case of Lot and the Israelites who are both kind of apart and really want to belong in this place, and at the same time separate themselves, hold themselves apart from it. And it doesn't work out for either party. As you recall, the Israelites get enslaved and then eventually leave. Lot, we see what happens. The Israelites were going back and forth. There was a lot of Ratzov with the Israelites about if they wanted to leave or not, if you recall. That there was, they would be really motivated and they would go, and then they would say, wait a second, maybe it was amazing to be a slave and we should go back. Even after they were free, there was all of this going back and forth. Lot had to literally be dragged by the arm by the angels to get out of the town. They said, we're destroying the place. They literally pulled him by the arm to get him back. His wife turned and looked back, turned into a pillar of salt. This real reticence to come out of this low place. Slavery was not good. Sodom was not good, but they didn't want to go. When he is pulled out, when he's dragged out of Sodom and he's going, the angels say, go up to the mountains, run, flee up to the mountains, literally go up. Go up. They're like, get out of here, go up to the mountains. You'll be safe up there. And Lot says, don't make me do it. He says, I'm afraid I'm going to die. He says, I can't go up there. I can't go up there. Okay, there's this little tiny town over there. There's this tiny little place. It's so small. It's insignificant. It's the tiniest place. Let me go there. Let me go to a place. Let me remain small and insignificant. Don't make me go up. Don't make me get up out of this low place. And don't we also do this all the time? Think about places in your life that are these kind of lower places, these ways that you can, these funks that you can get into, or any other way to think about it. We don't always want to leave. I think about kids when they're having temper tantrums and you try to make them feel better. They're like, no. But we all do that in certain ways. There's ways that we're in a low place, and even someone is offering us a hand to get out. You've ever had a period of depression or anything like that also? Someone's like, come on, go for a walk, get outside, you'll feel better. Nope. I'd rather not. I'd rather stay here. That feels too scary. Too risky, too scary, too vulnerable. I would rather not. There's a story in the Talmud in Masechet Brachot. Rabbi Chia bar Abba was sick. He was in a low place. Rabbi Yochanan went to visit him. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, are your sufferings dear to you? Chavivin alecha yisurin? Amar le, he said to him, lo hein velo secharan, not them and not their reward. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, give me your hand. He gave him his hand, and he stood him up. Okme. And the story is repeated with Rabbi Yochanan being sick now. Rabbi Yochanan is sick. Rabbi Chanina went to visit him. He said to him, is your suffering dear to you? Chavivin alecha yisurin? He replied, not them and not their reward. Lo hein velo secharan. He said to him, give me your hand, and he stood him up. So we have to want to be stood up. And there are reasons that we don't want that. There are places that we feel that our suffering is dear to us, that we hold on, that we get stuck in these low places because it feels maybe better than the alternative, or it feels, well, I don't want to lose the lack of responsibility I could take if I stay small, or I don't want to lose the safety that I have of just feeling kind of in this cocoon. But if we want to go up, if we want to trust in the natural ebb and flow of life, which is not going to keep us up here all the time, we'll end up, don't worry, you'll end up back down there. If we want to trust in the ebb and flow of life, we have to be able to let go of our suffering. This is not easy to do, as we see, and Lot certainly did not learn this lesson, but we can slowly, with ebbs and flows, learn it from him. We can choose to allow the flows of life to move through us in all of their bigness and fullness and goodness. And in this way, we can choose a full life. Shabbat shalom.